So when a lot of people think, oh, okay, well, I know a super easy way that I'll eliminate their sugar or the white sugar that they eat. I'll give them all the sugar-free diet stuff. But, thank you for shaking your head. But still, a lot of people see that and they think that is a really good alternative for their kids because they're not getting the sugar, even a great alternative for them in their body. Stop that thinking right there. It is the exact opposite. Those artificial sweeteners are actually worse for your body than the real sugar is. The two most common artificial sweeteners are going to be your aspartame and your Splenda, which all have side effects, very large side effects. On the aspartame side here, two side effects that definitely jump out at me first for this talk here are going to be your ADD and your hyperactivity, because those are both direct side effects of aspartame consumption. Now, a lot of people end up consuming aspartame and not even realizing it, just in some of the food that they eat. Like if you do a light yogurt or one of the 90-calorie yogurts, you're eating aspartame. Usually not something that you think of overall with that, because it doesn't say that, you know, sugar-free on the label. Okay? Or a lot of people think, okay, well, I'm not having the aspartame, but I'll have the Splenda, because that's maybe not as bad for you. Well, Splenda actually is made from chlorine, and that's what it's broken down to into your body. Your body cannot rid you of all the chlorine that is broken down from this Splenda. With moderate consumption, 96.7% of sucralose leaves your body, which leaves the rest of it there, which breaks down that chlorine. And under higher consumption, which would be more of, you know, on a daily basis, that falls to only 92.8% of it leaving your body, which then leaves a buildup of chlorine in your cells and in your organs, which then is going to change how our body can function, and it's going to decrease our overall function, and becomes toxic to our cells overall. So one thing we definitely really need to focus on is eating nutritious foods. So having a balanced, healthy diet with nutritious foods can help the body and the mind function optimally. So one big thing is eat protein. Protein is not only necessary to build muscle, but it also promotes alertness of the body, while carbohydrates tend to trigger fatigue overall. So especially that's going to kind of give you that big like crash after eating, which that can also be with kids. That's definitely something that can occur with them. And then, you know, 2 hours after lunch, they kind of get that little drowsy look that they're all going to fall asleep when they're listening. That can exactly be from it. And one thing that can really help to prevent that is making sure that when you do eat carbohydrates that you eat a protein with it. By eating them together, that's going to slow that absorption of that carbohydrate in your body. Also, you want to make sure to eat plenty omega-3 fatty acids. And the reason why is our body cannot make these on its own. They have to be part of our diet. We have to eat them, or we have to take supplements for them for our body to get those. Those omega-3s are so important, just like we talked about back in pregnancy. We use those omega-3s, those healthy fats, for the growth of our nervous system, the development of the nervous system, and also with the functioning of our brain. So we have to have those fats there, especially when we're talking about kids, because all those things with them are still growing. So some ways to get it in your diet are with cold water, fish, oils, and seeds. Okay? So cold water fish, that's going to be more of like your salmon, seeds, big ones, flaxseed, and with some different oils you can get it. But I know, I mean, it's hard to get kids to eat those things. Definitely. But kids tend to love smoothies, right? So one thing you can do is you can take some flax seeds, you can put it in their smoothie, blend it up. They won't even know that they are eating them. You can hide lots of things in there. Also, some ways that you might be able to get them. Some kids do like nuts. Walnuts do have some omega-3s. Also spinach. I'm going to be honest, I also hide spinach in my smoothies. It does not change the taste of the smoothie, especially like a great like banana and berry smoothie. Throw some spinach in it, grind it up fine, or blend it up fine, and you won't even know it's Another healthy source of fats for our brain is avocado. That's actually what I recommend for every child's first food, is even avocado, because it helps to really give some healthy fats for the brain. And I know a lot of kids do like things like guacamole, or I've even heard of that being put in chicken salad, and it, once again, kind of hides the taste there. Also, you can supplement your omega-3s, and they actually do even make some good tasting kid supplements in the omega-3s. A great brand is Nordic Naturals. It's a brand that we carry here in the office. It's the brand of omega-3s that I take. They make some great kids ones that I have tried, and I actually like them. They taste pretty yummy. They have strawberry flavor. There's another one that's called gummy fish food, and it literally tastes like you're eating a healthy food snack. It's awesome. So omega-3s, like we talked about, contribute to several facets of brain function, including sending neurological signals and creating dopamine, which the lack thereof being one of the causes of ADHD. Also, one other thing that you can do is you can remove any allergens from the diet, because they can definitely interfere with proper brain function. So if you're having trouble determining which part of the diet is a problem for your child, I would definitely recommend an elimination diet. And that's something that I talk with a lot of my practice members about who have kids, especially with those symptomatologies. And they've had a lot of success with it. Your two biggest food allergies that relate to behavior are going to be milk and gluten. The issues with those are that the protein in the milk and the gluten a lot of times cannot be digested fully in our bodies, which then, as a result, it starts to create some byproducts. Those byproducts send messages, or it can go up to our brain, and they start to create almost like a cocaine-like effect into our bodies, which then is going to be big stimulants. When we're stimulated, it usually relates to hyperactivity and reduced ability to focus and concentrate overall. So once again, the two big symptoms that we're talking about. And I have definitely had success, and also in addition with chiropractic care, we'll talk about that later, but with eliminating some foods, and it's different really for each child. I've had success with just milk, I've had success with just gluten, and I've had success with removing both of them, depending on the child, but had immense changes in their behavior. So also you want to have a helpful environment. So you want to create a positive environment for your child who has ADHD. Every child has challenges. You want to make sure that the child knows that they're loved and appreciated. Having ADHD does not mean that that child is of less value at all, but a lot of times, I mean, especially with those type of diagnoses, there's a stigma attached to it. And that's something that you definitely do not want to portray onto your child. And you also want to make sure that those who are in their environment, so whether that be their grandparents, their aunts and uncles, other loved ones, even their teachers, are not portraying any stigma onto them, like they can't be as successful as other children who don't have the same diagnosis, because they definitely can. So also you want to make sure if your child has ADHD, make sure that his or her teacher knows and can create that supportive environment in the classroom. Also, I know with my practice members who have done some of these changes, we've actually used the teacher as a big asset for us, because we have just asked the teacher to kind of document and send quick emails to the parents about how that child's behavior is doing. Just so that we can see, okay, what changes, especially when you're talking about that elimination diet, what changes are good and what changes are that we're doing maybe in their home life or in their diet or in their activity levels are not making the same changes in their school life. So we definitely were able to use that, and we were able to see that after, I mean, for this child, it was after a few weeks of changing their diet and their adjustment, that there were huge changes in the behavior, but we would never know that if we didn't have that teacher on our side. And the teacher was very supportive in us working with them and working on these natural ways to remove those symptomatology. Another big thing is creating structure in the child's day. Children who tend to have these developmental disorders, especially when we're talking about ADD or ADHD, or even when we're talking about this that even goes into further disorders, we're talking about more like autism and Asperger's, they really, really thrive on structure. They thrive on planned things out. They strive more on boundaries and clearly knowing what their boundaries are. Because when they have that, they are able to kind of know what they can and cannot do and what they can do to almost help their body be able to cope with some of the symptoms that they're feeling, but still have it be okay to do in what they're allowed to do. So they really thrive off of that. You also want to let him or her help you develop their daily schedule. So then they also feel like they do have a little bit of control of what is going on in their day. Not only can a structure help your child stay on track to getting things done, but it can also help them feel more secure about having that set routine and kind of knowing what's next in their day. Another thing is keeping organized. Children who stay organized have a better chance of keeping track of homework, tasks, projects. That's whether they have ADHD or not, and really I think that goes along the same with adults. So another thing, and I've kind of touched a little bit here and there about that, is that chiropractic care can really, really help these kids and even these adults. So chiropractic care is one of the best things that you can do to help alleviate the symptoms of ADHD. When the spine is out of its correct alignment, it can create interference in the signals in the nervous system, and that the signals that that nervous system is trying to send up to our brain. Proper brain activity is directly related to proper alignment and function of the postural muscles of the spine. So, when we are talking about that specifically, we are talking about the muscles that attach here on the spine, okay? When these bones cannot move correctly, those muscles are not going to be able to be stimulated correctly. They're not going to then be able to send that right information through those nerves and up to the brain. And actually, approximately 60% of our information that our brain gets comes from these muscles. So they obviously are huge, huge stimulants to that brain activity. So the postural muscles generate approximately 60% of all the messages that travel to the brain. When the messages are not generated correctly, the brain is not adequately stimulated. It's not getting the appropriate feedback from its environment. So they feel like they need more stimulation so that they can get that same information up to the brain. It can almost be thought of as like you have this itch and you want to scratch it, but you can't, and you just can't reach it. So, but you really feel like you need to scratch it, and then maybe you'll scratch it some like with your nail, but you feel like it just needs to be scratched more and more and more. That's almost somewhat of what their brain is telling their bodies. Okay, I'm getting some stimulation here, but you got to move more because our joints send stimulation up to our brain, especially when our postural muscles aren't sending the adequate amount. So they need to move more so that they can get that same stimulation up to their brain. So maybe what was just them moving their hand now turns to them kicking and kicking the desk of the chair in front of them, or any of those behaviors, but that's because they're trying to get that stimulation up to the brain that their body isn't getting. So correcting the root cause of the problem and removing subluxations, which I'll explain those in a minute, can help to relieve the symptoms of ADHD long-term and promote brain development in helping these postural muscles work correctly and send the right messages to the brain. So we talked about how the postural muscles attach to these vertebrae here, okay? So what can happen is that these vertebrae, or all these bones of your spine, is they can subluxate, which what that means is that that bone stops moving correctly and actually kind of gets stuck. When it's stuck there, it can also cause irritation of the nerves that come out in between each one of those vertebrae. Those nerves go to send messages of how our whole entire body is supposed to function and how it's supposed to work. So that's going to mean everything from moving our legs to talking to thinking to moving our hands to our heart beating to digesting food, breathing, all that stuff all comes from these nerves. So when these bones aren't moving correctly, we have a twofold issue there. These nerves aren't able to function correctly and tell the body how to work correctly. Also, these postural muscles here on the side, they're not being able to be stimulated correctly because the spine can't move correctly. And since those muscles attach to the spine, it's really linked together with the postural muscles in the spinal movement. So those postural muscles aren't working correctly. They're not being able to generate the right information to send up to the brain. The brain isn't able to correct the right or to create the right information, or to send that down the nerve or down the spinal cord and out these nerves, because once again, that spine is subluxated and those nerves can't function correctly. So basically, you end up with a twofold problem of you can't get the right information in, and you're not getting the right information out, which definitely would not mean that the body would be able to function correctly. So what we do, and this is something really that we focus on here at this office, is what we do is we adjust those subluxated vertebrae, get them moving better, so that we can work on correcting both of that twofold problem. We can get the right information to be able to be made and sent up to the brain from those postural muscles, because we can move better, we can create that movement. Also, the right messages can be created by our brain, sent down our spinal cord and out those nerves, and those nerves can tell the rest of our body how to function correctly. So that twofold bad just turned into a twofold good. So in conclusion, ultimately how you choose to help your child ADHD is really your decision. Because as parents, that's one of the responsibilities that you hold, is you hold that decision making for your child. Well, one big thing for us and why we really recommend going in that natural route, or at least trying that first, is because if you can just help their body's ability, your child's body ability to function better, then that's not only going to help them with trying to reduce these symptoms, that's also going to help their whole body work better, and it's going to help them be a healthier child. And we know healthier children grow into healthier adults, and it's going to set them up for really a better path in life. And one of the other great things about the natural remedies is there is little to no risk of complications overall, which is a big difference in what we find in most medications. So whether an individual has ADHD or not, the tips listed above can help to improve their health and overall function of the brain and the body really for everyone. That's one of the other recommendations that I tend to make, is that it is very hard, especially when you have multiple kids in the household, to make one of them stop eating this, but everyone else can. So really, it's got to be a family thing. The whole family has to be on board. When we're talking about especially things like those nutritional changes, I mean really, if you know that giving that healthier food to your child who has symptoms will help to get rid of that symptom and help their body function better, why wouldn't you want to give that food to your other children? Because you know that's going to make them healthier also. Same thing with getting them adjusted. You know that that's doing great things for your child who has symptoms, whose body isn't functioning the best. Well, just look at the rest of your children who already have pretty good functioning bodies. What can you do to just help amp their health up more, get their bodies functioning even better? So really, we would be happy to schedule you for an appointment for chiropractic care, or just really be a resource in any further guidance that we can give to you in improving the symptoms of ADHD or in the rest of your family's overall health.